Well, now it is happening. If you have a bank account in Kenya, or maybe you have a bank account in Kenya and you live abroad, or if you are Kenyan or whoever you are and you have a bank account in Kenya, guess what's happening? Right now, all the commercial banks, you know what are commercial banks? Commercial banks are any other bank in Kenya apart from the Central Bank of Kenya, right? Any other bank apart from the Central Bank of Kenya is a commercial bank, okay? So they are required to share your information to the KRA. KRA, if you've been living under the rock, KRA is actually what we call the Kenya Revenue Authorities, the body that is entitled to collecting the taxes from all the spheres of this great country. Now, this is the point. They are required to actually go ahead and share your information. And guess what? I'm going to share exactly with you some of the information that they're supposed to share. And let's speculate and see what exactly is going on. A lot of people are actually jittery about this information. What's happening? You know what? It is what it is. But guess what? On this channel, I'm here to share with you anything to do with money, investments, and all the tips on how to grow your cash. Guess what? No matter what happens, I'll always be here to share this information with you. By the way, I usually upload a video each and every day. So if you don't want to miss one of my good videos, make sure that you subscribe to this channel and like this video. And also comment down below, tell me what you think. Let's get into the business, all right? Now, this is the point. Now, all the banks in Kenya that are commercial banks, just like I said, they are supposed to submit some of the information to the Kenya Revenue Authority. And by the way, I know you already guess what. If you're coming or if you watch this video from Kenya, you already know where I'm heading to. All right? So, exactly, I'm talking about the taxes. Now, guess what they're supposed to do? All the commercial banks to implement what we call the Common Reporting Standards. They are calling it the CRS of 2023. This is like a new law that has been made, and you all guys, the commercial banks are supposed to take this report as per the CRS or the Common Reporting Standards and report it to the Kenya Revenue Authority. This is what happens. All Kenya banks, trusts, not just banks, trusts and other financial institutions. For example, if you're in money market funds, for example, if you're circles, anything that is involving money, they have to report this information, and other financial institutions to report and share information on foreign account holders to KRA. While they're largely saying it's not for the locals or whatever, but they are saying all the foreign account holders, they are supposed to be held out there, and they're supposed to, the information ought to be shared, which they claim is under the Common Reporting Standards of the 2023. All right, now let's go to the next point. Now, this tax man is stepping up the tax collections from tax evaders. Obviously, we know each and any given country, there are people who try as much as they can to try to evade the tax, so they sort of use the foreign currency, they put their money out there, or maybe they use some other means to make sure that at least they, they evade taxes and what have you. And if, guys, you've been watching these videos from Kenya, either you are Kenyan and you're in diaspora, obviously, you know what happens in our country is that there is an increment of a lot of taxes that are out there, and people are actually being, I don't want to use the term overtaxed. I would just say there is a lot of tax that is actually being dependent on people's head, and they are saying, hey, I think, or we think it's too much for us. I think it can actually be reduced a little bit. The life is already hard. The cost of living is actually high. And this guy, the government of Kenya is trying the best they can so that at least they can be able to improve the taxes, of which it is okay and great to actually have the taxes because the country developed through the collection of the taxes and what have you. But what people are complaining about is, hey, guess what? Number one, we are complaining the cases of corruption, like, we got no problem with paying the taxes, but where exactly is it going? Like, is it doing what is intended to do? By the way, are you fighting the corruptions and all those kind of things? But anyway, I'm here to report exactly what is happening, okay? I'm not here to make this channel in a political way. It's not a political kind of a thing, all right? So the point is, the reason that's why they're doing all this is to just up the game so that they can be able to go ahead and do what? Collect as much as they can as far as the taxes are concerned. And if still you from Kenya, you can understand, sometimes back they were talking about those guys who are coming from the abroad. When they show up from the airport, they ought to be scrutinized in terms of they're bringing in. If it's worth this amount of money, they ought to pay the taxes. If you come with a very nice and good and expensive watch, you have to pay the taxes, you have to declare, and all those kind of things. And there was a lot of backlash, and a lot of people were actually being held at the KRA, and some of the goods actually they were never returned from the bodies of that, the immigrations and what have you. There were those kind of cases. Obviously, we also know there is also increment of the taxes. For example, the health insurance, there is whatever. The list is actually up and up and out there. All right. Now, the other thing is that the data that this guy is gonna ought to report to this KRA, this is where the actually is becoming a bit sensitive. The data it will be includes account holders or stakeholders, those who own that specific account, the address, meaning where they come from, who are they, where do they reside, and such kind of a things. Address like revolves around your identity and where you come from and all those kind of things. Okay. The other thing that's gonna be shared is out there is actually your jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is like you understand. All right, the other thing is about the residence. Obviously, where are you a non-resident? Are you a resident? Where do you come from? And all those kind of things. The other thing is actually the PIN number. That is the KRA PIN number. There in Kenya, there is a certain, and I believe in any country, every country, they always have that thing. There is a PIN number that you're supposed to share out there whenever you are going to apply. For example, if you want to do stocks, you must have that PIN number. Whenever you're buying or you're investing on money market fund, you must have the PIN number. Whenever you're investing things like bills, bonds, and what have you, getting into like anything and even buying properties in Kenya, you must have that PIN number. All right, so they're gonna share that PIN number. The other thing is balance, and I know this is where you've been waiting. Yeah, absolutely, they have to share how much it is there in that specific bank account. All right, and the other thing is cash value, you know, what is actually there, and other things called insurance contracts, if you've been engaging yourself in any insurance contracts, and if you have any and such kind of a thing. And the last but not the least is actually about the annuities. Annuities is like that amount of money you get paid in a certain period of time. Let's say maybe in an year or maybe your lifetime or whatever the case. That's collectively that amount of money. Anyway, the point is this one may not be sound actually, you know, this information that I'm sharing here may not sound strange for people who are coming from the West, because I understand from the West, you know, developed countries, you have to share all this information for the purposes of taxes and what have you. I understand the taxes in those countries a little bit high compared to Africa, but I see if the opportunities of how making that money is quite a bit elevated and such kind of things. Anyway, that's the information that they're gonna be sharing about your account out there. I bet maybe, yeah, maybe this government is a little bit up when it comes to collection of the taxes. But again, my question is always, where do they channel these taxes? And if it's gonna go for good use, well, it is what it is. The last one is that the KBA, this is Kenya Bankers Association, guess what they say? They say all that, or they are claiming all that procedures that gonna be used to actually go ahead and raid people's accounts. They're gonna go ahead and do what? It to be in accordance with what we call the Data Protection Act, Section 25. This is like that specific act that was formulated as a law which says that all people information and data and the privacy ought not be misused or not be shared, and if to be shared, then a certain procedures has to be followed and all those kind of things. It's like rules and regulations or constitution or the whatever laws and such kind of things. This is, you know, Protection Act of Section 25 says that people's data and what have you. You go read all that information. I'm here to make sure that I summarize the information and I give you the filtered information so that at least you can be able, you know, to grasp as much as you can. If you'd like to get this information, you can as well go and Google it out there from the different websites, and you can be able to get all this information in a detailed manner. So for me here, I'm here to actually share with you and tell you this is exactly what is happening, and you just brace yourself for such kind of a thing. And some of the banks are actually sending some emails. Maybe if your bank hasn't sent you an email is coming, just hold still. An email will come and tell you, dear so and so, we are required by the Kenya Revenue Authority to share some of the information as by the law, blah 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 blah. They're gonna outline all these kind of things, and again, obviously, they're gonna assure you your data is okay, you're not gonna share with the third parties and all those kind of things. But the point is this: these guys are trying to look at what amount you have, you know, what are the sources of your income, like do you usually pay taxes whenever you're filing nil returns? Do you actually mean like it's true you're filing the nil returns? Is this exactly you got that specific year? Like, you know, because there is a claim out there by the government that there is a lot of people who ought to be paying taxes, but they are evading paying taxes. So with that case regard, then it means that, hey, that's why they are there, making sure that they grasp as much as they can as far as the information is concerned. But let me tell you one secret, guys. The era that you're living in, especially in this 2024, or should I just call it 21st century, if there is something expensive, if there is something that you can sell and get a lot of money in this era, is actually data. Did you see something called the WorldCoin some few months ago, like last year actually, and they came and they were scanning people's retina using a certain thing called orb, collecting the data, and then they give you some coins which you can change them into money and such kind of a thing. And I always tell people there is nothing is offered for free, and in every deal, if you can see any a fool, then you are the one. That's for a fact. And there is always a fool. That's for a fact. So the point is, it's always good to understand that, hey, that information is meant to do something for your life. That's what does it. Whether you like it or you don't like it, that's how exactly it goes. So the point is this, guys. Make sure that you go out there and you adhere to these rules and regulations. Otherwise, you can get imprisoned and such kind of things. Anyway, the last one is that even the pre-existed accounts will be affected. Maybe there was some accounts that were opened there before even these rules were embarked or whatever enacted. Then there they are. It's gonna be applied, what do we call it, retrogressively or what? Whichever the case is it. Anyway, guys, that's the information I wanted to share with you and tell you that your accounts ought to be raided. I know raiding is a bit harsh word, but it's not really the raiding. It's actually Kenya, all the commercial banks share that information with them so that at least they can up the basket of the collection, of which I do not find any problem with it. The only problem that I actually find is like, okay, fine, we pay all those taxes. Where does it go? Are we getting roads? Are we getting schools? Good schools, that is. Are we getting amenities? Are we getting things like water, electricity, connections, and all those kind of things, security? So if you get all those kind of things, then there is no problem. But if then they get all that taxes, but our lives is not improving, then that's a bit rough, and we may not go well with them in that specific area. But it is. I always tell people, it is what it is. Control the controllables. The ones that you cannot control, you just leave them behind. And this is life, and that's how exactly it goes. But never forget, this channel, we talk about money, talk about investments. Never forget one thing. No matter how much you're earning as your income, go ahead. Don't be scared to putting this money under these banks, because obviously we cannot put our money under the pillows and mattresses. We cannot build ourselves safes, and perhaps we can for those who have the ability, but there are those who do not have the ability. So if you do not, does not mean that you guys should rush to banks and start withdrawing money. But there's some of the things that I can foretell. I'm not a prophet, but there are some things I can tell. I'm looking forward into having some couple of guys being laid off from these banks, because some of the people will withdraw from going to putting their money in banks, because they feel like they're not, there are people who are a bit insecure and a bit skeptical. The moment they hear that then their information not to be shared with the KRA, some of the guys, they will be like, hey, guess what, I ain't gonna put my money in a bank. And that means that it is that reduction of flow of the money. Then it means the banks cannot have all that baggage of the employees. Then therefore it means like it has its own repercussions, and I'm expecting a certain ripple effect to that information that they have shared out there. That is it. You see, every decision usually have some repercussions, and maybe they realize there is that big repercussion. Maybe the commercial banks might be like, hey, guess what, I think we are facing a bit of challenge, because you know what, people actually, the deposit are actually reducing and such kind of, and the bank transactions are actually reducing. You'll be like, hey, I think we have to rethink about some other thing. And the good thing with Kenyan government, sometimes it listens out. I said sometimes. Do not crucify me on the comment section. For example, that of the immigration, you have to declare what you're coming in, and then you have to pay taxes. They kind of sort of, it's not actually, it's still there, but it's little bit friendlier, should I call it, than the way it used to be. For example, like even changing the IDs used to be like 100 bob. They said to be a 2,000. Then they say no, it's not 2,000, it's 1,000 bob. It's a bit considerate, but it's a bit high. Anyway, it is what it is. Anyway, that's the point that I wanted to share with you. But don't forget one thing. If you'd like to have a conversation with me, pick that number from the description of this specific video. Call me and let's have conversation. For now, it's a goodbye. But don't forget, like the video, share it if you're in a position to. Let's get into the episode. See you there.